and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Chisel is absent. Neal?
Here.
Carlson?
Here.
Luce?
Here.
Bergen?
Here.
Hadley?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Is there anybody that wishes to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, consent agenda.
Consent agenda consists of minutes of November 4, 2019 meeting, claims, consider policy regarding use of city-owned equipment, consider policy regarding use of city vehicles, and Resolution 3021, setting a date for a public hearing amending Title 16 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Decorah pertaining to subdivision.
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Is this where if we want something else?
Discussion.
Yeah, so I'd like to take the city vehicles out of it.
Second.
C and D, both, equipment and vehicles?
Well, really D, unless they have to go together.
They do not have to go together.
Okay.
Okay, item D, city vehicles, is taken out. Any other discussion?
Roll
We
call.
had a first and a second on the previous to approve. Emily moved and Andy seconded to lift
Yeah.
D. Do we,
But
we
we've
didn't-
discussed before, you can just take it out.
Okay.
we haven't discussed, so we can? Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were
Yeah.
following the,
Right?
Our new procedure.
I'm good.
That's good. Are we good?
I'm good with
Yes.
All right, roll call.
You have a motion by Johnson, a second by Luce. Johnson?
Aye.
Luce?
aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Public hearing on an.
Item
E-
D,
Oh,
consider policy regarding use of city vehicles. That was pulled out of the consent agenda by Ms. Neal
So we have to handle it separately. So now
for discussion.
All right, I'm lost. What is it?
We're talking about the
Consent agenda for the vehicles was lifted.
Yeah,
So that's the
This
next
one
thing
right
on the
here.
agenda.
okay, then that go, okay, I've
Yeah.
got you. Thank you.
You just lift it to the next item on the
I
agenda, so
think
it
that-
bumps everything
That's a
else down.
wonderful idea, thank you.
As discussed
Okay.
in the public safety meeting, I'd like to add weddings to the list.
I would second that.
Discussion.
As referenced by the conversation during the committee meeting, both of our insurers have suggested that that's not an appropriate public use for the city to extend its liability to. And so I would speak against
Okay.
the proposal.
And I would too.
It could fall, I mean, so I think when Ross understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ross, right? It could fall into pre-approved civic activities. So how's that different than if we have a pre-approved civic activity? How does the insurance work to cover that differently?
Civic purpose.
So I think that, I mean, my understanding of that situation is that then at the point in the future, when the request was made for fire vehicles to go to that wedding, the discussion of the insurance implication would be weighed at that point. So it doesn't remove,
carte blanche.
it doesn't remove the recommendation from our insurance carriers. It just means we choose to either ask the mayor or city staff to weigh that concern later, or choose to bring that back to council for us to weigh on an individual basis.
So then could we say, and pre-approved civic activities that may include weddings? And then we're doing that?
I will just say, when your insurers are telling you to exclude something from use, I think you're a fool to do anything other than what they're asking you to do. And when you have your professional people and your city attorney advising you to go with a given ordinance or change to the policy, I think that you'd be a fool not to follow it.
I'll repeat what I said at the committee meeting. This is not stemming from a desire to not show any more regard than we possibly could to the service that our volunteer firefighters offer the city. To me, it is appropriate and just decisions around very expensive, up to $1 million fire trucks that our taxpayers have purchased. and that we carry significant debt for.
We have a motion and a second and discussion. Is there any further discussion?
So the motion is to add weddings. Is that correct?
I believe
That's what I wrote
so.
down.
Funerals and weddings.
I would agree with what Johanna said, that we do honor our firefighters, both paid and volunteer, and respect the diligence they apply to what they do. But this doesn't seem to be a wise step to take because of what Kirk said.
Okay, so everybody's done discussing?
I guess I'd like to maybe see what other cities are doing and if they allow trucks for weddings before we vote to not allow it. Because I'm sure that there's other cities that do allow it.
But I can also state that there are cities that don't, because I checked.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, any more discussion?
Can I make an amendment that says pre-approved civic activities that may include weddings, as opposed to weddings with the funerals, but pre-approved civic activities that may include weddings?
I'll refer that to the attorney.
What?
I'll refer
Or do I
that
have, do we
question
have
to
to
the
vote on it as I
attorney.
originally made the,
You need to vote on it the way you made the motion.
okay.
Okay, last call. Roll call?
Neal,
Yes?
Carlson,
Aye.
Luce,
No?
Bergen,
No.
Hadley,
No.
Johnson.
No.
Okay, motion failed. Okay, now,
Motion failed to add weddings. You still have the policy itself just hanging there.
I
Thank
move
you.
to approve the policy as written.
Thank you.
Second?
Any discussion?
I will not vote yes in favor of as written. I really, as we discussed in the public safety meeting, I would like to see it driven by dispatch protocol, which provides for accountability rather than by policy.
Okay,
And Ross, to your point, do you feel like the dispatch protocol that you're asking for needs to be required in policy versus the direction of council to be put into process?
I think it can be handled by staff setting protocols and tracking accountability on that level for people that are in charge of those vehicles and that equipment. But I don't feel that it has to be addressed in this way.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you support the policy, but you want a data-driven response that records the uses.
Correct.
Okay. That feels like an administrative application of the policy. At any time a vehicle is issued, dispatched, checked out,
Yep.
It's
Same thing with,
it's logged.
the same thing with our, I would like to know where the city airport vehicle is. I would like to know where the former police cars that the city has as staff vehicles are. I would like accountability of our vehicles. And I feel like weddings and funerals could be handled in that way, safely and insurably. And I feel like this, as written, is potentially punitive, or can be seen that way, and that's why I would vote against it.
And would your recommendation, Ross, then be that the committee continues to work on the policy?
My recommendation would be that as dispatch changes, that the city has input into dispatch protocols that would address vehicle use. For accountability, mileage. From a sustainability standpoint, we would know the mileage of the vehicles. We would know the purpose. From an accountability standpoint, we would know where they went. It ties back to expense policy for, so if we go to the League of Municipal Cities and we want to know what kind of mileage was used for things, things outside of active service, we would have data and accountability, and that's what that is. The policy,
So Ross, I would go back to, using the airport, for example, let that be driven at the department level. The airport has a logbook, so every time that car leaves the airport, the person signs a waiver acknowledging the rules and regulations and when it was checked out and when it was brought back in. And
Okay.
so if you're looking for data on mileage and use and trips and people, we do that at the department level,
And that would not
not
change?
at the dispatch level.
But it could be centralized that way. So when I go to Pulpit and I see the city airport vehicle and people that are flying shouldn't be drinking
Or driving.
or driving, which I took a picture of and I have it, just because I thought it was probably not good. And I also feel that the fire department, I think that there are cases that fire vehicle use is potentially warranted. So I think that having it be departmental and dispatch driven is a better way of doing it versus doing it from a overall policy standpoint.
And I still think that you should listen to your insurers and your professional staff when they make a recommendation about the use of
Well,
multi-million-dollar equipment.
Chad read because I asked that the information be brought from the insurance company, and it didn't specifically say, unless I didn't hear it correctly, it didn't specifically say that weddings were wrong.
It says no personal use.
Right. But funerals could also be construed as personal use.
Could be.
And lots of things could be construed as personal use. If it's dispatch driven and we know where it went, it's not personal use, it's something that's been civically agreed upon, if there's a protocol for it. That's my sense.
So if we have a policy that states that funerals are a public use, doesn't that make it? Us
I think that's what
recognizing,
this policy is saying.
yeah,
And then other activities as approved, which is what we talked about at the committee level, is if there's something else, bring it to the full council. Again, similarly to staff barbecue.
right.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Can you read the motion again, please?
So the motion is the policy as written. Ross had a side comment about
I'm just going to vote no.
administrative data tracking, basically.
Okay,
I just wanted to explain my vote before we took it as discussion.
okay.
So Ross, are you thinking that your comment wasn't taken under administrative advisement to implement?
No, but the mayor has discussed in the past to discuss how you're going to vote if you're not voting in favor of the majority, and I feel like I may not be, so I wanted to have it out there.
I appreciate that.
And I'm, Russ, I mean, I think you're leaving with me a much clearer understanding of your goals around a PR dispatch protocol. And to me, it feels like you're directing my attention deeper into the policy in a way that our current policy doesn't go. So heard, if any
All
of
right.
that's accurate.
Okay, roll call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye?
Bergen,
Aye.
Hadley,
No.
Carlson. Neal.
No.
Motion fails 3-3. So I need to ask what your direction is for staff to amend or revise or rewrite this policy. Because as written, it failed.
I did.
I feel like I've been pretty clear, but I mean, I think,
Well, and I'm sorry, you don't have, you don't have to tell me right now, although
Oh,
some
okay.
direction will be good, but, before this comes back to another committee meeting or council, I need to know what you want to see.
Okay.
You can go around and tell me now, that'll be helpful, but you may need to think about it too.
I guess I would like to see some input from the fire department in terms of what the vehicle's been used for in the past historically and traditionally that feels good to our public safety personnel in a way that we know that some cities are doing it this way and other cities are not. And again, I don't see the difference truly between a funeral being public or a wedding. I think they're both events for our safety, our public safety personnel. So
Agreed.
Any other,
I would move to table it until the next meeting and vote on it again.
Well, I don't know that you need to take action on that. It failed as written, so,
Okay.
Bring it before the next meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, Randall
Yeah.
should be back.
I think Ross had some really good points about, I recognize you don't want to necessarily micromanage a policy, but if part of the reason the policy is being implemented is this tracking management insurance, then I think having it spelled out would be really important. And again, really saying what it is what are the requirements that allow a truck or a vehicle to be used would be important in this kind of policy, I think.
I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay. Public hearing on an easement agreement with Quickstar, 1101 Montgomery Street, for replacement of stormwater detention and conveyance systems.
So as an overview, with Quickstar's new development project at 1101 Commerce Drive, they have assumed the existing easement agreement lease, but desire to change the terms of the agreement so that allowable use is stormwater management and detention basin. The current agreement includes fuel pumps and a canopy, which the new owners will not have on the right-of-way areas. They've stated they'll have all of their infrastructure otherwise on their property. This is the required public hearing for approval of a lease agreement. And I would just write the council's attention to specific language regarding the city's rights and obligations if it terminates the easement agreement. There's a section labeled termination. Basically, it states that the city has the right to terminate this easement at any time, but that the city would not require the owner to replace the stormwater detention facility or any functions such as water quality reduction, water quality infiltration, or other typical stormwater detention ponds functions, or stormwater detention ponding. And the city attorney and I are in agreement with that language because currently the city doesn't have a very solid stormwater management policy. It also seems very unlikely that we would require use of that right-of-way in that section of Montgomery Street. It's an overly large right-of-way area because it's old state highway. And so this use and this easement agreement seems appropriate for the city's conditions. And the owner is here if you wish to have him say anything.
I will also state that I believe I stated replacement when it's just placement, so you're aware of that. So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to approach the city council on this agreement? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Consider Resolution 3020, approving an easement agreement with Quickstar, 1101 Montgomery Street, for placement of stormwater detention and conveyance systems.
I'd move Resolution 3020 for approval.
Second. Yeah,
Any discussion?
Sorry.
it's okay. I would like to enthusiastically support Resolution 3020 because of the recognition of the importance of stormwater detention and conveyance. Thank you, Councilperson Carlson, for seconding so quickly.
Well, and thanking the corporate responsibility for seeing
Yes.
a problem and working to
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
resolve such as well.
Roll call.
Motion by Luce.
Aye.
Okay, Carlson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Consider ordinance 1240, an ordinance amending Title VI of the Municipal Code of the City of Decorah by adding Chapter 6.35 fowl and Section 6.35010 roosters, prohibiting the keeping of roosters within the City of Decorah, Iowa. I will take public comment at this time, both pro and con, and allow 3 minutes to come up and state any feelings you have, one way or the other, prior to when the council discusses. If there is somebody who would like to comment, please approach the microphone, give your name and address.
My name is Carol Edmondson. I live at 804 Linden Street. Here in Decorah, we have been, I think you all received a letter from, can you hear me? From us earlier about an issue that we've been having with a rooster in our neighborhood. We had a hearing today. Basically what it came down to is I think that I'm kind of being accused of being hypersensitive. And the audio that we had, I have logs, I have, and the one thing that didn't happen, I actually made recordings today, starting at 5:08 a.m. And I have those on my phone. I don't know if that's something you want to listen to, but I just want people to realize what it sounds like in our bedroom and what it sounds like in our house.
Would you play it?
I would gladly. Any of you, if this was occurring in your bedroom or in your house, I'm sorry, I kind of got the shakes there. I can find it, I thought I had. Okay, let me pick what, example. Oh, 5. Okay, so this was today at 5:08 a.m.
You're going to want to
Put it
put
next
it
to
up
the
to the
mic, yeah.
microphone. That's okay.
Yeah,
I
That's
think-
Get
enough
it.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I have, this one goes on for 3 minutes. There are 8 crows. I have 5:23 a.m., 8 more. I have 5:35, 5 more. I have actually some later, actually video of the
Okay.
rooster itself crowing. We had a hearing today, John representing the city, which I'm sure you all know about. A ruling hasn't been reached there, but we want to say that we so appreciate your taking this issue on. It's going to be hard to have the rooster be gone unless there's an ordinance
Okay.
specifying that. I think is what John would agree, that it's going to be hard for a magistrate to actually take the rooster away. It's
Okay.
been a great problem for us, really disruptive of our lives, especially sleeping, has affected our well-being, just from being weary and tired and the stress of this. And I don't know if you want to hear any more. You've kind of,
Well, I appreciate
from
you
me.
coming before the city council.
thank you. And
Thank you.
again, thank you for considering this. We appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone else? Just state your name and your address.
I'm Ralph Van Fossen, for those of you who weren't at the court case. Yes, the magistrate not only heard the Edmondsons' complaint, he also heard from other neighbors around us in our neighborhood saying that the rooster is not bothersome. In fact, even though he's necessary to the egg production and operation that I have, he also is a joy, not only to me, but to the neighbors, and to particularly those with children across the street and directly next door to the south. You probably know P. Allen Smith is a outspoken advocate for this move that's spreading across the United States to convert neighborhoods into local gardens, food production, instead of pesticide-sprayed lawns. And he is also a big advocate and a promoter of backyard chickens. While the rest of the nation, and even here in Decorah, is moving in that direction, it's interesting that the Decorah City Council should consider eliminating it by banning what's currently allowed in our R1 zoning, which is poultry husbandry. And it has been that. I came here 47 years ago about this time of year to look for a place to move our family. We wanted to move to Decorah. And we went house hunting. Our plan was to rent a house for a year or two so that we could look around and see where we wanted to be. And there were no houses for rent. You can imagine that. 47 years ago, there were no houses for rent at this time of year in Decorah. So we thought, well, we don't have any choice. We're going to have to buy a house. I went looking for a house to buy, and there were two houses for sale in Decorah. One over on Ridge Road, just about next door to Dave Carlson, and another one up at 806 Linden Street was still under construction. That was in an R1 zoned area, which allowed for agricultural use, as it currently does. And we thought that's where we wanted our family to be. We were there, we've been there the whole time. And I didn't start with the chickens until about 5 years ago, on the recommendation of some other people in town that knew the joys of getting your own organic chickens, eggs.
I can maybe afford you about 3 more minutes.
The blue ones are Araucana, that's what I started with.
3 more minutes?
They're the ones that I had 3 chickens when the city brought suit against me for harboring bothersome animals. 2 Araucana hens and an Araucana rooster. You can't perpetuate your flock without a rooster. Roosters also do other useful tasks. Their functions are to mediate disputes, they cause hens to lay better, they induce broodiness. So if you get a hen that goes broody, then you don't have to incubate eggs. Fertilized eggs are longer lasting, more nutritious. You can't do any of this, which has been provided by Decorah for the whole 47 years I've lived at 806 Linden Street, without a rooster.
I appreciate.
And incidentally, to my knowledge, there's at least 1 petition, and I believe maybe 2 or more circulating right now to bring before the council on this subject.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak?
Dan Edmondson, I'm Carol's husband, same address. Just briefly, there was never an attempt on our part to include our whole neighborhood being bothered by this animal. The rooster and the chickens that Ralph has are now enclosed. They're enclosed on the north side of his lot, adjacent to ours. Our lot line, our house is about 8 feet from the lot line, or 6 or 7. The hearing today was a little ambiguous there, and maybe 20 to 25 feet away from the chicken coop. So all of the activity of these animals is right next door to us. Our bedroom is right over this area. Anything that goes on there we can hear, be it any time of day or night. And so the neighbors aren't necessarily bothered, and that's never been our issue. In this one case, we are the sufferers, and we've got no other way to address this than to complain for ourselves. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring this forth. I'm closing for comments and bringing it forth for discussion on Resolution 1240, as read previously. And this is the second reading.
And Mayor, just to recap, this ordinance prohibits the keeping of roosters in the city limits, defining a rooster as a male chicken in the ordinance. This is a new ordinance section aimed to define the prohibition. It does allow for keeping roosters on a temporary basis, up to 7 days to accommodate the Winnebago County Fair and other such special events and educational purposes. Currently, the ordinance is written to take effect upon passage, approval, publication, or January 1, 2020, whichever date is later. There's no provision for grandfathering of existing roosters. Compliance with the ordinance would be upon the enaction date. Should also be noted that this is not a zoning ordinance nor a zoning-related matter. Title VI of the city code refers to animals.
I'd move ordinance 1240 for the second reading.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call?
Luce,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Motion passes. That's the second reading.
I'd move to waive third and adopt.
Second.
Discussion?
It would take all 6 votes to approve waiving the third and adopting, just FYI.
Waive to and adopt, waive, adopt to waive. Thank you. Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Bergen,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider a motion to provide notice to union bargaining unit per Iowa Code, Chapter 20. This is in relation to the dispatch service.
As we discussed in the Public Safety Committee meeting before the council, steps are being taken to consolidate the dispatch under a new leadership team of the Emergency Management Commission. And in order for that to happen in a timely manner, it would be appropriate for the city council to notify the current union of dispatchers that we are seeking to transfer their employment to another venue. So we would be dissolving the department as a city entity so that it could be realigned under this new management association or commission. So I would move that we send notification to the union that we are seeking to dissolve that department, and the resolution being them being transferred to employment still as dispatch persons under another controlling entity.
Second.
Did you get all that down, Chad?
Yeah,
Sorry to be verbose.
we'll review the tape.
Yeah, like, the question I'm gonna ask you is that those are members that are in the police department as a whole, that dispatchers don't have a separate union, is that correct?
We have a combined union
Yeah,
agreement
they
here.
will be going to that, but I didn't know if that was a point of clarification that was needed, or maybe it's not needed.
No, technically, the collective bargaining agreement just states that the city has the right to terminate operations of departments or job classifications of the employer. An article there requires 20 days' notice to do so. So while technically this is a termination or a dissolution of the department, if you will, 2080 agreements that you heard about during the Public Safety Committee meeting would come along and establish the protocol for the transition of employees at their current employment status to another employer of record.
Yeah, I would reiterate that too, that every effort in all of the discussion that we've had has to ensure the staff people that we have and how that's moved about. I've been appreciative of the discussion that's been going on, and I appreciate the process and the success with which we've had going forward. Any other comments?
The committee members were all in favor of us moving in this direction at the previous meeting.
Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Bergen,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. City manager and department head reports.
Just a couple of things for the council. I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll just kind of state it publicly because I know they're getting ready to kick it off. But the SMID board is working on a reinstatement campaign. The SMID authorization is coming up on its renewal here by the end of this year. Actually, I think it's technically like June 30, but it has to be reinstated before the budget season starts. So I know they're working on that campaign. They'll get information out. I'd like to thank the chamber and the street department for the holiday lights. However early it may be, they look very nice downtown. And then just to let council know that the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission continue their work on rewriting the downtown C3 design codes. And an element of that, it's been about 25 years since those codes have been written. Or maybe not quite that long on those, but this time will also include some educational components to writing those codes because we continue to kind of struggle with what the codes mean, how they're applied, who they apply to, et cetera. So that process is ongoing.
Very good. Department heads. Oh, and I've been requested you use the microphone. And maybe just turn it on and. The quality of this hasn't been great. No, I know, but people have, but they can't hear anything when they go to do the
Put it
tapes.
right here, right here.
It's not gonna bite you. It'll be okay.
Start with a song.
Yeah.
Dave Smutzler, Decorah Avenue.
There you go.
Most of my time recently has been spent with the mayor, Wanda, and the city manager working with the dispatch center transition, so that's occupied most of the time. We're still working on the hiring process. We're at the final stages of that. We've administered the MMPI to the 3 officers that have applied. We're waiting for the results to come back from that. We submitted their fingerprints to the National Information Center. We just got those back, not of my criminal records. So we're moving forward there. And they're getting their retirement medical examinations done this week, and it takes a week to get those results back. When that all comes back in, we start talking start dates. So we're at the end of that marathon hiring process. And the dispatch hiring process, we brought 1 candidate back for a chief's interview, and we're doing a quick background check with her, and as soon as that comes back cleared, we're going to make a job offer there too. So we're moving forward with those.
Just to recap, I did finish up the getting the fiber up at the airport. There's only 1 outdoor access point that needs to be connected yet, so we'll get that done. But everything else is good up there. The Gunderson hangar is live. Gunderson was down last week and got their connection live, so they're, I think, much happier than using the wireless that they were using before. So I think Steve Smith was here earlier today for the fire public safety stuff, but
I think he
Oh,
still
yes.
is.
Steve and I are wrapping up the city-county shared phone system with the school district. So Steve and I are wrapping that up. I'm sharing our circuit, so there'll be a little bit about that.
Chopper, I have a quick question. You said Gunderson's on fiber now?
That's correct.
How is that being done?
As to,
Who's providing the service to Gunderson via fiber?
the fiber is actually, this Metronet is up there, and then the fiber is going up there. Centec will be providing like phone service like that, and part of a lease agreement in IRU with the Metronet, the city building is under connection with us. So,
Basically, we lease them dark fiber.
Gunderson is providing their own internet service at the hangar using our dark fiber.
Yes. We have an IRU dark fiber lease.
And some provider is providing internet via that dark fiber to Gunderson, not on the city dime.
That's right.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, they pay for the lease of the dark fiber to the Metronet.
we just finished up with our disinfection season of the wastewater plant. Our geometric means that we report to the state was an average of 4. Our limit's 126. What's really neat about our UV system is because our clarity of the water is so clear, we're able to bank that down to 60% power. And throughout the whole 6 months that we were running it, we were able to maintain that. So it was quite a bit of electrical savings for us this year. So.
Here, here.
We've wrapped up our roof project. Parking is now back open underneath the building, just in time for winter weather, where a little closer access is appreciated. We're now working with our project managers to start kind of dialing down on some of our next steps. Going to be starting to look at some specs for some interior paint and floor covering, since we have remaining bond funds available. I'll be back with more information about that as I have some. Had a really fun bubble program this weekend. I think that's it from the library.
We're still dealing with a sampling issue at well number 7. We've got the colony count down to 1, which is the most minimal hit that you can possibly have. Basically, it's some type of bacteria that's smaller than the point of a pin. We went at it from a different, working with the well contractor, we went at it with a different type of disinfection. We started that Thursday, and we disinfected Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we flushed for 6 hours today. We're going to flush a little bit tomorrow, and then we'll be taking our samples. Hopefully, we're moving in the right direction.
I'm just going to give you a little heads up. If you're not getting phone calls about deer and deer hunting, you're probably going to start, because it's starting to consume our lives around City Hall. Lots of people calling, lots of questions. On both sides. It's a discussion that you're probably going to need to continue to keep having here.
We're getting pretty good at switching our trucks between snow removal and leaf pickup. We are continuing our leaf pickup as weather allows. Is what we telling people we're going to get to as many as we can. We know we missed some scheduled pickups and orders because of the snow, but we're doing our best there. The weather has delayed some of our ongoing projects, namely the Oneida Drive Bridge paving rather will probably occur in the spring. The bridge is open, accessible. It'll just be rock on the approaches as opposed to concrete in the spring. Making progress on Lower Ridge Road, still hoping to finish that one up, but that might be one also that gets pushed to the spring.
Jeremy, is the Yardway site open longer hours, right?
Yardway site is open dusk till dawn. Yes, 7 days a week.
Thank you.
Dawn till dusk.
Which
I know.
is shorter and shorter.
Jeff's been, attended the department heads, but there's nothing from the department, fire department this time. As he jumps up in the middle and comes over and runs up thousand something, so. Okay, city council.
Well, I'm here for 4 years, so that's great. And as far as the sustainability draft plan, we now have a draft, and we're going to actually be meeting with Chad on that draft as a sustainability committee on Wednesday. And then our tentative plan is to get that plan out to department managers, and then all of our task group members who were involved in the input process. And we're going to be asking for a city council work session specifically to look at the sustainability plan in the near future. And then we're also right now discussing how we want to get public input into the plan before we ask for city council approval. But it's moving along. I think it looks pretty good. People who've seen it are pretty excited. There's a lot of great, I think, investments and thought about how to work collaboratively. So that's great.
Nothing this time, Mayor.
I have signed up for the Fayette Municipal Leadership Academy session on Thursday, 4 to 8 p.m. And then actually for all 3 units, there'll be another one in April. The second one is online that is available. So I figured since I got reelected, I should probably learn what I'm doing again.
Do they update those from year to year? I would think maybe they do.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I want to commend formerly non-council person Neil for the diligent work that's been done on the sustainability plan. And now Councilperson Neil, thank you for continuing.
Thank you.
Nothing this evening.
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing, Mayor.
I have news. I got a call today from Linda Davis, who is the regional social security person at Kansas. And she informed me that there will be a face-to-face person located in Decorah. They are not going to put it to a video conference. I believe they're going to have it at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is, I think, up on the hill. And the person that would be after the person that's there is retiring, but that they will have a face-to-face person presence in Decorah, which I was happy to hear.
That's great.
Oh, that's for sure. We have an opening on the Planning and Zoning Commission coming up. The expiration for this one is in January. If you're interested in planning and zoning, contact Chad or Wanda at City Hall. You can see the information on our web page and get an application in. There is a potential for an opening potentially on the Board of Adjustment, but anybody can apply for that as well and put in the application for that. We started having the community forums, and the next one's going to be Tuesday, the 26th. It'll be from 5 to 6. And this time it will be up at Luther, and it will be at the Women and Gender Equality Center, and it will be showcasing the visiting exhibit on race, Are We So Different? Representatives from the city and government, Luther, Decorah Police Department, Decorah Schools are welcome to attend, as is the public. But if you haven't seen that exhibit, it's an interactive one. Lisa Scott will be leading that. And so that will be a very interesting exhibit. I'm anxious to see it myself. I just want to sometimes we do a lot with streets and budgets and the city, but I want to just acknowledge the production that went on at the high school in Tuck Everlasting this last weekend, and just put a shout out to Tom Hodak, Jason Roush, Karen Truan, and Kristen Underwood. There were a large number of kids, and that experience is going to be valuable, and we can also see the progression as far as what our young people are able to partake in this community. I don't think I have anything else, and Randy's not here to say, make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's gone. Thank